bass. So, what were like one or two of the most unforgettable tours that you went out on during that, peak years in terms of, was it with the Chili Peppers? Was it with P-Funk? Was it with someone else? Was there like just some unforgettable experience that really stands out to you?
Yeah, touring wise, there's like, 1986, the Best of the West tour. Thelonious Monster, Fishbone, Chili Peppers, right? That was pivotal. And then after that, we did the License to Ill tour. Those those were like because it's the Beastie Boys' first headline tour.
I just to interrupt you, but I saw that tour at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles. Were you guys on that one?
No. What you saw at the Greek was the Beastie Boys and Run DMC.
Okay, that's right. Yep.
And then I ran up and did the dog with the girls in the cage. And I was good for doing the dog on stage. I was still living the Atomic Dog tour fantasy.
And grabbing some Budweisers.
Yes. Yeah, I made an appearance. But yeah, like those two were pivotal. There's so many amazing tours, like Lollapalooza, Warped Tour later, but really, those two made for like one, we went out with it's all friends on the Best of the West tour, and we made lasting friends on License to Ill. And it was the most notorious tour on the planet at that time. We got chased out of town for profanity. Beastie Boys was putting up a 30-foot dick every day. Yeah. Murphy's Law was raising holy hell. We partied like animals.
Did you go out on stage and play at all with the Beastie Boys during that tour?
No. They didn't have a whole bunch with instruments. Hmm. They didn't play instruments like hardly at all, if at all, in their own set. They used to do sound checks. MCA was a badass bass player. Hmm. Adam Yauch. Like he was playing these Daryl Jennifer bass lines. It was the first time I ever really heard like all of what Daryl was playing, because it's hard to hear on the Bad Brains albums. And MCA knew every note.
I had no idea. I was surprised when they came out and started playing instruments, and that was seemingly an amazing transformation, because I had no idea.
Yeah, they worked at it. They put in work. I remember talking to them about, because they were not going to settle and use technology to make it right. They wanted to play the fuck out of their instruments. So gotta give it up to them.
And then they were so New York, East Coast, but then they came out and lived in LA, and they really became part of the LA scene. Yeah. So Give a Monkey a Brain. How'd you come up with that title? I mean, whose idea was that?
It came out of my mouth one day when me and Kendall were talking. It was this thing where I just read something about, you know, like, you know, the government, probably local governments in like Alabama or Louisiana or somewhere, involuntarily sterilizing women, like Black and Latino women, right? Women going for one.
That happened in North Carolina, I've come to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this was like, you know, it had to be 91 or something. I read something like that. And we were going up the stairs to a rehearsal talking about it. And, you know, I'm prone to goof on shit, even if it ain't funny. Like, and I said, give a monkey a brain and he'll swear he's the center of the universe. But then I said, give a monkey a brain and he'll swear he's the center of the universe, or Chim Chim's Badass Revenge. And we laughed about it. The subject ain't really funny, but that's how you deal sometimes with rough. So that's actually the moment that happened.
Well, and you guys were going through some band member changes and turmoil at that time too, and the music. I mean, to me, that was like, I called it like Fishbone's grunge album. You guys were really rocking hard, and kind of, you know, the Seattle scene was big around then, I guess, and maybe that had some influence.
Yeah, Kendall got brand new equipment that could actually meet the challenge, and he wanted to go there. So, you know, he wrote those songs, and shit, we was prone to just do what came, you know, what people, he brought it to the table, we went with it, you know.
I thought the band, you guys did it convincingly. I mean, End of the Rain, that's a really good rocker.
Yeah, yeah. It was, you know what? Because, I mean, you know what? We were feeling it, and it wasn't like, you know what? Because there's a part of all of that, to me, that was always a piece of Jane's Addiction. You know? Part of the whole grunge scene with a little bit of Jane's Addiction running through all of it. So, you know, it's another thing that just felt like it came naturally.
Mm. And that was your parting shot with Columbia, right?
Yeah, and Kimball Jones, unfortunately, you know. You know, yeah, and that would lead us to Dallas Austin.
How did that connection happen? Just
Angelo went to Atlanta to do a poetry reading. He connected with Joy. And, you know, Joy was like, yeah, this cat Dallas Austin, he's a badass producer. He's a fan of you guys. And she told Angelo, y'all should connect. And that was an amazing experience. Like, we spent a lot of time in Atlanta, which we had never done before. And it was all actually incredible. You know, got to know the Goody Mob, and you know, had a lot of fun running around DARP, Dallas's studio. You know.
Well, how did he differ from previous people that worked with you in the studio?
Well, he was a real hip hop producer, you know, real R&B and hip hop producer. And, you know, he was, it maybe, you know, like, he wanted to make a rock record that would be bumping in the Jeeps. And when you sat in Dallas's Jeep and you listened to that album, it sounded amazing. You know, so that was the first producer we had that took that kind of care. That particular care to you know, but that was his life. And he was he was a part of creating that reality.
And we're talking about Chim Chim's Bad Revenge, so that concept finally came to being a title. And,
yes.
But even though he came from that background, there's a lot of thrash on that record, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, one, he just let us go too. Like that was he actually we wrote like the title track. He's a part of the writing of, but the rest of it, he let us go raw because those songs were written to be raw as can be. And he allowed for that. And that was a whole nother thing that we had not really encountered. And the other thing is because Angelo discovered the theremin, so it's theremin everywhere. But you know what I mean? Like, it was crazy, but you know.
All right, so we had a brief break. We got a little change of scenery here, and we're going to wrap it up with Norwood. So we were just talking about the Chim Chim album, and I wanted to mention Psychologically Overcast is one of my favorites on there, and also Nutmeg is just an epic jam.
Right.
Yeah, you guys stretched out on that one.
Yeah, like really that Chim Chim represents Fishbone really with not a whole lot of fucks to give. You know, like we were like, okay, this is how we feel right now. You know, and with like, yeah, it's unapologetic. Just that's where we were. You know, we had been doing, yeah. It was we had in that time like we were playing like 3.5 hour shows and shit, and stretching songs out, and you know, it was the first release. Like, I wanted that album to be an independent release. Like, I thought it should have been a self-produced independent release. And, but the band thought otherwise. So we went with Dallas. And I was happy with, you know, the Atlanta experience and whatnot. But, you know, Dallas was in bed with Arista Records, his Rowdy Records, so he needed them to be on board, and Arista was not on board. Dallas was gung-ho, but it took more than Dallas to create what needed to be created on the other side of it. And that album wasn't built, like that album was built to say, fuck you. Like that was so long Sony, you know, and you know, this is the sound of I don't give a fuck right now.
And was he the one that brought Busta Rhymes in for that one track?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that the first rapper on a Fishbone record?
I think so. Like we did an EP with Q-Tip and the Jungle Brothers producing. Set the Booty Up Right was the name of the album, and they didn't spit on any of it. They just came in and produced.
What year is that from?
That came out in between Truth and Soul and Reality of My Surroundings.
Okay. Because after this, you guys went with Hollywood Records, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had a one-off there.
Yep.
But another great cover, Shakey Ground. I mean, that's one of my all-time. I mean, the original with the Temps. And Billy Bass on there and those guys. I mean, what an awesome jam.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and we brought in Billy Bass. That's me, Billy Bass, and Flea on that track. you know. Because when Billy said that he created that track to where three bass lines were interwoven, they could be played at the same time. I was like, okay, let's do this with Flea. Called up Flea, and he showed up. We rocked it all together.
That must have been a blast.
It was, yeah, it was a summit of sorts.
And Dear God, I dug that track too.
Yeah, which is actually, yeah, that actually was written with. There's an album that never got released with Fishbone that Fishbone did with Dallas. That would have been the follow up to Chim Chim, and yeah, that would have been on that.
I felt like that was one of your most overt blues influence tracks.
I mean, well, Cholly kind of too. It's the inverted blues of sorts, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
And then the Everybody's a Star got the Sly on there too.
yeah, yeah. With Rose Stone came through and dropped some vocals on that for us, and them choruses, and she came in and did the part she did on the original, you know, with her girls. It was beautiful.
So after that, I mean, you guys, I think you had one more album, studio album, and then just a bunch live stuff, and right?
Well, yeah, we did Still Stuck in Your Throat, but we also did Still Stuck in Your Throat and Intrinsically Intertwined.
Right.
Wait, maybe we did have one more. It's hard for me to remember right now, aside from the live ones.
Well, the Temple Bar was live, but it was new stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Intrinsically Intertwined is more of an EP.
Yeah, it's an EP, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Trulio situation. How did you get that going, and how much fun has that been, and where's it at now?
Well, you know what? That was really born out of just me getting my friends in free to a show as the opening band, right? And so, yeah, it started off just, as Adrian Sherwood and Tacky were coming to town, Doug Wimbish on bass. All my musician friends were like, can you get me in? I was like, I ain't in the band. Ain't my show. And then bright idea. Maybe if I'm the opening act, they could just play for their end. And it worked. 11-piece band. Everybody got in. About a year later, Vernon Reid gave me a call and asked if Fishbone could open for Living Color at the Palace. I was like, no, Fishbone, at that time, we were selling out 2 nights strong. So I was like, but maybe I can put together something to open the band. And Vernon said, cool. So I started assembling the band. And what happened is I just said yes to everybody who asked to be in the band. Until it got to about 27 people. Anna Loynes, she was our manager, but we were still joking. Like, she was just a manager because she was the guitar player's girlfriend, Kendall Jones. But she was actually super effective and qualified. She's brilliant. But, we were still joking. She was like, it was a Spinal Tap joke. The guitar player girlfriend managed the band, standing on the side of the stage, smoked a cigarette, We laughed about it all. But anyway, yeah. Vernon Reid said, yeah, and that kicked open the door for the second chapter. A year later, 27 people. And then Anna was like, oh, maybe y'all need a warm-up gig. Make sure y'all really killing it with Living Color. But she got us a show at the Lingerie on a Wednesday night, the Wednesday before that. The band that was actually headlining was Soundgarden. But at Club Lingerie, the headliner a lot of times would go on in the middle slot. So we actually closed the show. And then we went ahead and did a show with Living Color, and that week was the new beginning. So anyway, it was all just a bunch of fun. And, Blackbird McKnight came through, Billy Bass came through, fucking Flea, John Frusciante. Anthony even stopped by. He didn't stay long, but he did. Eddie Hazel came through, but he didn't play guitar. He never did a show with us. He wasn't a part of the band. He just showed up to a rehearsal with Billy Bass, picked up a bass, and blew everybody's mind.
The first show was in like late '89 or something, or what year?
Yeah, this was like, 88, 89. In that time, yeah. And we just ran around LA just partying our balls off, having and it was always, funkadelic in nature, like it was, undeniable, and, I was like, I'm carrying on in the spirit of my forefathers, Fela Kuti, Duke Ellington. I like having a big ass entourage, a big ass band. It ain't an entourage, it's a band. Like, shit was fun as hell. Some very pivotal points was playing Madonna's birthday party. I don't remember what year it was. It was the Park Plaza Hotel, and George showed up. There's two amazingly pivotal points. It was the first time Billy Bass showed up. The band played like they had never played before. I was like, I didn't know they could do that. Billy showed up and they stood up straighter than ever. And then the night of Madonna's party at the Park Plaza Hotel, they did things like that. I didn't know what the band could do, those things that they did for George. George was giving them hand signals. They was paying attention and following. I was like, what the fuck? He just tightened my crew up. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. A lot of amazing people came through and party with us. Doug Wimbish would come up and jam. People. India Davenport was an original member. India from the Brand New Heavies. Dave Kushner, who was the only musician in Velvet Revolver that wasn't a part of Guns N' Roses. But it was he and Scott Weiland, that is, Dave Kushner. He's the original Trulio. There's a lot of people came through.
I read like 80 people have come through.
Huh?
I read like 80 people have come through.
If not more. Yeah, it's like, it's for sure more because of the revolving cast. Like, I don't even remember everybody that came through. There's people that come up to me and they're like, yeah, I played with Trulio, from this point to this point. I'm like, I don't remember you being there. I didn't make nobody sign a ledger. I wasn't didn't have much forethought.
Well, I know you guys. There was an EP, I guess it was. It came out at some point, and I had a copy of it. I was looking for it before I talked to you, and I couldn't find it. But it had "Who the Fuck are you" on it, and I can't remember all the tracks, but it was a pretty jamming EP.
Yeah, that was. I ended up putting that out myself. Um, I did it wrong, but but right now that's my newest release right now is "Who in the Fuck Are You" right now on Rope a Dope Records. And like I said, like we December of 2019 we released "If You Want Me to Stay" on Rope a Dope Records, and then a video in January. And now "Who in the Fuck Are You" just dropped.
So
The new version.
okay, is that so? Is that a newer version than what I would have had on the
Yeah,
other?
yeah. I re-recorded it. It's a little different, Got Kenny Olsen on it, Garrett Scheider, Fernando Pullum, Bronx Style Bob. It's I don't know. It's a gang of motherfuckers on it.
Are you familiar with the Big Ol' Nasty Get Down?
I'm a part of the Big Old Nasty Get Down.
You are, okay. Because I was going to say, when that came up, it made me think of Trulio, because it seems like a similar kind of concept.
Well, that was like so John Hines. The time when we met, it was Gary Scheider and Clip Payne both independently were like, you need to meet this dude John. Y'all think alike. He has to join forces or something.
And he plays a little bass also.
Yeah. Yep, John will come through and play with Trulio time to time. He was with us strong for a minute. And I just recorded, so I've recorded for him. I just dropped some vocals on something, gave him a hook.
Nice.
Yeah.
Seems like he's always in the laboratory.
Yep.
So you got the rope-a-dope stuff coming out with Trulio. Anything else in the on the horizon?
You know what? I will be looking to do a video for "Who in the Fuck Are You." It's a 10-minute song, so I'm not one for editing things down. If it ends up editing down, I had to, but if I get my way, you're gonna get a 10-minute video. So and no, I ain't one for bleeping out words either. I said fuck. You heard me. So
Unfiltered, man.
yeah, I like it like that.
Yeah.
And we'll just and hopefully my intention is to release at least one more single before the year is up. And then maybe put it all together for an EP. Make out of and add one more track and release an EP. I have a full length that I'm remixing. That I want to put out early next year, February, March. But I still got a lot of work to do on it. But with that, my intention is to do a feature-length animated film. So, and it'll be in the spirit of the adult comic books in the 60s and 70s. Robert Crumb, Fritz the Cat, kind of.
Yeah, I was going to mention Fritz the Cat.
Yeah, heavy metal.
Bob Bashy, right? Did the
Ralph Bakshi.
Ralph
Yeah.
Bashy? Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm a Checker Demon fan. I'm a, Zap Comics, the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers, you know, Mr. Natural, you know. I was a little kid getting into shit I probably shouldn't have been getting into, but, you know.
How, Norwood, how did it come about that you guys did the documentary a few years back?
Um, Chris and Lev Anderson reached out, said they wanted to do it. I did not want to do it. I thought that a documentary signaled the end of something, and Angelo had the foresight to just say, no, we need to do this. So, we did, I went along, obviously went along with what Angelo was thinking, because if I'd had my way, they would have went the other way, and it turned out amazing. I learned a lot from it, you know, not everybody who's ever been in the band loves it, but the critics and the fans gave it, gave it a good thumbs up. I think it's just honest. And that's what Angelo set the temperature for it too. He was like, if we do it, it gotta be raw, it's gotta be real. And I agree.
No, it's very well done, and that's that's part of the legacy now. It's an important part, I think.
Yes.
But you, I remember George Clinton. I approached. I was spending time with him in 1989, and I was saying, hey, what about doing like your autobiography or your life story or something? Maybe I can help you out. And he was like, I'm not ready to do that now. He had no intention at that point of doing anything like that. And so I'm sure you were in the same headspace probably right then.
Yeah, my first thought was, I'm still writing that story.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell it now. And you see it in the documentary, me and Angelo were in a very contentious relationship at that time. So I was like, let us get past this rough spot so we could end on an up note. Well, you see, it didn't exactly end on the most up note. There's a glimmer of hope.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was real. Where do you stand with Angelo and the other guys today?
It's all good. I like right now, I'm just happy that we've made it this far, and for whatever, every single original member of Fishbone is alive. Whether Kendall makes it back or not, he's alive, and I'm happy for that, because it means, to me, like, the possibility is at least still out there. It doesn't mean to happen. It may not be meant to happen. I ain't gonna force it to happen. But my heart is open to the possibility, So and the fact is that 5 of the original 6 made it back together in time to go on tour with P-Funk, and we are still creating. We've been in the studio now with Fat Mike from No Effects, which is quite poetic to me. And, the band seems really happy when we're working. I love working with Fat Mike myself. There's a video going around the internet of us doing a performance in his backyard, in Fat Mike's backyard. Live, that was streamed, doing a version of we call estranged fruit.
I have to check that
It's
out.
very, very current events type lyrics.
Hmm.
So yeah, check that one out. It's special.
I will. And how can viewers and listeners keep up with what you're doing, Norwood?
Well, I'm happy to say I just got TrulioDisgracias.com back. It's up and running. And maybe by the time you get there, it'll be revamped. But if you get there, it's I'm just happy it's there. And there's Trulio Disgracias on Twitter, Trulio Disgracias on Facebook. Fishbone Soldier on Instagram, Fishbone Soldier on Twitter, Fishbone on Facebook. I've been doing bass lessons for 5 years on mostly via Skype. I do them in person as well, but COVID-19 and a whole bunch in person to be done. So right now, strictly Skype lessons, unless I know. So, and that one, I don't have I don't have a website for that, but you can email me at norwoodlessons@gmail.com, and I got some details for that ad. But yeah. So Instagram for Trulio too. Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah. But yeah, just look for a brother out there. I'm on the social medias too. Woody Woodstraw, Twitter and Instagram, which is a whole nother project that I got coming. Woody Woodstraw, the Devil's Son-in-Law. I've been doing that one for years too.
Another alias?
Another alias, yeah. That one I play a little acoustic guitar, play a little acoustic bass, sing some silly ass songs.
You gonna do some more live streams?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
How'd you do those effects? I caught some of the one. That looked pretty good.
Yeah, you know what? We got a team. My man Kentia Fraser and my man Boogie actually he's running the visuals. Like that we would like so. Again, the Think Experience, the thing that me, Scott Page, Kenny Olsen, and Stephen Perkins are all doing. We did a series of shows out of this place called Wisdom LA. And so we were doing Think Experience. It was mainly like a Pink Floyd tribute type thing. And Wisdom was perfect for it. Big dome, 500 plus people, and totally immersive thing. And eventually I did it, I brought Fred Wesley. So we did a whole thing, Fred Wesley with Trulio backing him and bookending the show. And then I got a call and it was like, oh, Bootsy might want to do something. I got scared. And like, can we wait? Nah, Bootsy want to do it now. Anyway, I ended up doing this show, Bernard Purdy, Fred Wesley, and Bootsy, right?
Oh, damn.
At Wisdom LA.
But when was that? Because Bootsy's not playing
Huh?
bass. Bootsy's not playing bass live now.
No. I put together a band. He just came up and he actually was ill. And he came up and he did as much as he could. And then Garrett Scheider stepped up and wrapped the show up. So it was kind of magical. Garrett saved the day and killed it. And, I had Greg Thomas on deck, Blackbird McKnight. It was fun night. But So anyway, COVID-19 came, and then we ended up connecting with Monsters of Rock cruises. So they got a bunch of cruises. A good friend called me and was like, "Yo, you got to come down and check out what we doing over here." And when I saw what it was, I was like, "Oh yeah." So we picked up. That was the first of what I believe will be many things that we will do in that setting. But we brought over the team from Wisdom, but you should go check out Wisdom LA.
Huh.
They did some incredible things.
Yeah, it brought back memories of like when I used to go Lazarium and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's in the same spirit. So anyway, yeah, there'll be more.
Cool. All right, I'll look for that. Is there anything on your bucket list, Norwood? Anyone that you'd really like to play with, or something else?
You know, if Fishbone could back up the moment where Tina Turner and Grace Jones connect.
Make it happen.
Well, thanks for letting me know that I could do that.
They're still with us last I checked, right?
Huh?
They're still with us last I checked, right?
Yeah. Thanks for giving me permission. Shit. Sometimes you need that.
There'll be some fireworks.
Yeah.
And looking back, what would you say you're most proud of accomplishing in the music life?
Really making it this far, and still be looking towards a ever unfolding future. I'm really happy that I love where I've been, but I don't have to dwell on the past. I can look to a future and know I'm creating forward.
And are you hopeful for the future of music?
I'm hopeful for the future of the planet. I think these kids is going to pick up and kick some ass. It's bleak. We are at a crossroad. Depending on, when this actually hits the place, it'll be crucial no matter what. This will be airing before there's an election. So, I'm like, I get adversely affected by these fires in Southern California, and I was just thinking about how it wasn't nothing like this shit when I was growing up. I don't even remember conversations about a fire season. I'm sure there were fires, but I remember them catching arsonists. And maybe my memory ain't the best. Well, I know it ain't the best. But this last fire season, I'm like, y'all climate deniers, y'all gonna put us all in the, y'all gonna put the future in the grave.
It's like denying the Holocaust that we were talking about earlier at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I think these kids got the energy since one, the 99% movement gave me hope. Occupy Wall Street. The next badass thing was them kids in Parkland and Black Lives Matter. All of this gives me hope. And I was contemplating that, my generation, we did sit-ins and raised hell and divested money from banks until it choked South Africa out and allowed for a relatively bloodless revolution that brought Nelson Mandela out of jail, out of prison, and brought down apartheid South Africa. And then, not much after that. And that brings us to now. Like Rodney King was a moment, an eruption worldwide. People didn't understand how the whole world reacted. But everybody went back to normal. We didn't know what to ask for.
Got complacent too.
Got complacent, exactly. So the youth of today didn't have shining examples of people banding together and creating massive seismic structural change. Because the last thing I could remember was Nelson Mandela. I was just a young adult at that time. So for them to pick up and say, my future, y'all can't control my future, I'm taking it in my own hands, is the appropriate action.
Also, people didn't want to face how ugly some of the reality is. And now we're finally facing it and hopefully going to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to take everybody from every angle doing a little bit, whatever they can imagine, to ensure that there's a future. We may not get to where everybody agrees, but we can get to where there's enough people in agreement and taking action to actually have a positive effect on where we're going.
I still believe that the expression of music can be part of that and should be part of it, and I hope it will be.
I think it's an integral part of it. But there's another thing where, like there's got to be 15, 16, and 17-year-olds that are creating a soundtrack to the future that's all theirs. That I'm too old to participate in, kind of, sort of, but I'm gonna get a little piece of it. You know what I mean? I'll follow their lead and musically too. I just gotta see where I fit in. I'm actually dropping bass on this girl, Pepper Lewis. She's 20 years old. I'm dropping bass on her track. And so I feel like I'm connecting to the future with that. Beyond, Fishbone is still creating we make music with the intention of possibly creating something new every time we go up to bat. We don't know if we accomplish it or not, but that's a part that's built into our DNA too, to explore and experiment and try and squeeze out that thing that's never been heard before. It just makes it interesting from a creative prospect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got to keep pushing.
Yeah. It is about what's next.
Well, it gives me joy is the wrong word, but I'm glad to hear that you feel positive about the next generation, because my son's part of that, and they have their hands full, and I hope that they can rise to the challenge.
You know what? It's always been youth culture that brought about seismic change. You know, I'm like, where's Frankie Lyman right now? That's all. You know, Stevie Wonder was but a child. So was Michael Jackson. You know, the civil rights movement ultimately, actually, that embodied several generations, but it was the youth that stepped up and was fearless. You know, the Black Panthers, youth.
Yeah,
You know,
imagine how strong the Black Lives Matter movement probably would have been without COVID.
yeah, 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 and it's we're in a stage where new ideas are needed, where like America is the oldest democracy on the planet. That was built on you know it had the seeds of a good idea, but it's actually built on some bullshit. So you know maybe it's time for us to reconcile with all of it and kind of create it in the image of the promises of and realize that those let me rephrase that. The promises were only meant for rich white slave owners, landowners, that is. Rich white landowners. Understand that. When they say Trump has appointed more federalist judges than anybody, they keep in mind federalists want to interpret the Constitution as the framers intended. The framers intended it to be only for rich white landowners. Somebody's taking it that far. Trump being a real estate mogul, I can see how that works for him. I don't know what he's thinking, but I can see how that works for him. So we got to really look at what it was, what it is, and maybe it needs to be torn down and rebuilt in the image of the future that we want.
Yeah, time to really live democracy for everybody. Stop half-assing it.
Yeah, and keep in mind too. Was it Aristotle? I believe that's where democracy begins.
Sounds
really?
Right.
I was just listening to something where somebody pointed out that actually in the beginning, like democracy is like, yeah, let's give them enough freedom to where they feel good. But if you give them too much freedom, then they're going to want to take what's mine. We have to understand that if democracy begins like that, it was always an illusion. And again, to tear it down and rebuild it where it reflects the reality of the future that we truly want and desire.
But it's frightening to me to think of the extent of support that the person who's been in office has, in this country. It's just
but imagine that people have always felt that way. He just made it okay for them to let their ass hang out.
It's
like imagine that. Like them people didn't wake up like he has a great idea. No, he connected to what they were feeling already.
Yeah, but don't you find it scary? Don't you find it scary that was there to that extent?
Yeah, because I walked the planet like I belonged everywhere I was. So I feel like maybe I was foolish when I was walking down some dirt roads in some places. you know. But what the fuck? I'm here. But all I'm saying is, it was a false sense of security anyway. If we didn't know that these people felt like this,
Right.
and shaming them into silence was not what worked.
They're in the light now.
That's why we have it now. That's why it's a problem
Yeah.
today. So, like, what was missing was the right level of conversation. And I don't know what that conversation would have sounded like, in 1979 or 1982 or 1997. I don't know exactly. But I promise you this, there were people who had think tanks in the 50s after World War II that actually thought it through to bring us the present that we have today. When they studied Germany, when they went back and had think tanks to study Germany after World War II. So, we are living somebody else's long game reality to bring us to where we are.
I sure hope when you and I hopefully talk again in 2021, we're going to be heading in a different direction.
I'm with you, and I actually believe that is where that we are. It's dark. It's dark as fuck, but I'm like, nah. I believe in these kids. I believe in these kids. I believe in the energy that is building. And in the end of the day, I'm like, it's ugly. A lot of people died. But it's probably the fucking wake-up call we needed. And if we don't take the opportunity to create a better future, then all these people that died in vain.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. Don't allow for that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they got their work cut out. I do think that they're capable and they're determined. I've seen encouraging signs among the young people. So, yeah.
Yeah, just imagine, like I took my daughter's 19, she'll be 20 in November, man, and I took her to see Bernie Sanders, like during when him and Hillary Clinton were campaigning for the Democratic nomination. And the way she reacted, I'm like, she acted like she just saw the Beatles and Bernie Sanders. I'm like, oh, he's a rock star. You know what? That old ass man was speaking to their future, and they knew he was too old to be speaking for himself. He was speaking for their future, and they heard it. And we all need to take a lesson from that. Fuck what happened with the DNC. Take the lesson from Bernie. He spoke to these kids' future, and that is all that matters. Continue to speak to their future.
Yeah, because they've been getting a raw deal.
Exactly. So, anyway, that's where my head is at.
Yeah, I fully sympathize, man. Good getting into that head of yours and sharing some of that. So,
yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for doing this. Really cool to hook up with you. And
like the good book says, Right there over, I think that's your left shoulder. Everything is on the one.
Hey, back at Truth and Rhythm headquarters. Thank you for joining us on another magical ride with Truth and Rhythm. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, thank you so much for your continued interest and support. Be sure to subscribe. Go to YouTube, go to the Funk and Stuff channel. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives and breathes and thrives. Also, goodies there like TIR Quick Takes. And if you subscribe, you know what? You get the show before anyone else. It's free. If you love jazz, funk, R&B, soul, you can't miss it. Pass it along. Tell a friend. Tell family. This audience is growing, and it is a beautiful thing, all coming together for the love of this great music. Also, if you can throw us a buck or two, we could use the support financially, keeping the lights on, keeping the servers going, all these expenses. If you can help support the program, whatever you can give, much appreciated. Go to the funkandstuff.net website. On the right-hand side of every page, you just click and you can donate through PayPal, credit card, whatever. Very easy to do and so much appreciated. And if you do a sizable donation, I will mention you on the program. Also, drop me a line. Email me at scottg@funkandstuff.net. Let me know who else you'd like to see on the show, what you enjoy about the music. Let's just kibitz and talk about stuff, talk music. You'll find that I respond very quickly, and I much enjoy the rapport and the camaraderie and the interaction. Always remember, this is your show, The True Music Lover. So for now, that's all the time we have for this one. It's a wrap. As always, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.